Alright, what's going on, guys? Andrew here, back again. I got a different way to display a video you guys have seen before already. So we're doing the EPL Team of the Season based off their stats, but instead of sitting here talking to you and then throwing up some slides with created cards and fake stats, I'm going to put up cards onto a foothead squad. So you guys have probably already seen it, and if you haven't, I'm not going to go back into how I do this, because I've gone through it multiple times in both video form and in writing form. I've written an article about it, so you guys can go check out that to describe how I go through this and how I come to my conclusions here. So to start off, we're going to go into our 4-1-2-1-2 wide variation here. Gives you four defenders, 2 center backs, right back, left back, CDM and Cam. That way we can distinguish between who's more of an attacking player, who's a defending player, our 2 wide players, and then 2 strikers. And then we also have our bench spots and our reserve spots. So we're going to have a backup keeper, backup left back and right back, 1 backup center back, backup CDM, backup Cam, backup right mid, left mid, and then 2 backup strikers. And then we're also going to have a super sub player, and we're also going to have a misfit player, so a player that plays a whole bunch of different positions. Just shout out, look at these new card designs, they're pretty sick. But we're going to start off in goal here, and we're going to go with, of course, David De Gea. Clearly it makes sense, this dude was a monster all season. He came out with the best save percentage. He's made 80% of his saves, that's stupid good. He also had the 2nd best goals against average and the most shutouts. Moving over to left back, we're going to go with Southampton's Ryan Bertrand. Bertrand had a phenomenal season as Southampton's captain left back. He came out and he had the 2nd least amount of times he was dribbled by. He was a great one-on-one defender, and that gave him the 2nd best tackle success rate. He also blocked the 4th most crosses, and he also completed the 4th most crosses. He was great going forward. He was great as a defender. Really great all-around right back. Moving on to right back, obviously, Kyle Walker, right? Dude was an animal for a very revamped Man City back line. He came out here, he was the 3rd least dribbled by right back, giving him the 4th best tackle success rate. He had the least fouls against him, and he completed the 5th most dribbles while also having the best passing percentage of all the right backs that we looked at. So again, another guy who's really good going forward, a good one-on-one defender in the back. Moving into the center backs now, this is where people probably are going to be a little shocked here. We got, starting off with Southampton Liverpool man Virgil van Dijk. He might not have had a lot of appearances, but the guy came out, and when he played, he was phenomenal. And that's coming from an Everton supporter. So he was the least dribbled by defender, center back, which gave him the best tackle success rate. This dude, you couldn't get by him if you tried. He had the 6th most interceptions, and he also had the least number of fouls and cards. So he made his tackles, and he also didn't commit fouls, which was really great for Liverpool. He also had the most headers won and the best passing percentage of all the center backs that we looked at. Jan Vertonghen is the 2nd one. Vertonghen had the 4th most tackles, was the 3rd least dribble by player, giving him the 2nd best tackle success rate behind Virgil van Dijk. He committed the least amount of fouls, had the 4th least cards against him, and he also had the 4th best passing percentage. And to help all of that, he also won the 4th most offsides. Leroy Sané is our left mid, left winger. He was phenomenal on this side. He's a young player of the year, and rightly so, right? I mean, he tore it up this year. He had the 4th most fouls drawn, the 3rd most goals from the left mid position, completed the most dribbles, the 2nd most crosses completed, and had the most assists from this position. The dude was an attacking force with a Man City team that just was unstoppable this year. Moving over to right mid was Riyad Mahrez. Riyad Mahrez was very underrated for this Leicester side this year that kind of just didn't do anything. He really didn't, he wasn't appreciated as much as he probably should have been. He drew the most fouls, completed the 3rd most dribbles, had the 3rd most shots and the 2nd most goals with the most assists. And just like Mane and Sané, and he was right up there with him, with all these guys in the way that he played, and just because his team didn't do so well, he was pretty underlooked. Moving down into the CDM position now, a bit of a shock is Eric Dyer. Eric Dyer, in this game as a center back, but realistically, he played center defensive mid, 22 times in the Premier League this year for Tottenham, and he was solid. He was the 2nd least dribbled by player and the 3rd best tackle success rate, so if you tried to get by him, you really didn't have a good chance. He had the 2nd least amount of fouls and the 2nd least amount of cards, so when he made his tackles, he made them clean. He was the 2nd least dispossessed player, and he won the 2nd most headers. So the guy knew how to pass the ball around. He didn't give up possession in front of the back four. He did everything he needed a center defensive mid to do. Then moving up into the cam position is David Silva. David Silva, a very well-deserved card. He scored the most goals from this cam position. He was the least dispossessed player, had the 4th most key passes, which is key when you're playing cam, and he set up Aguero and Jesus tons of times. Had the 2nd most assists and the best passing percentage. He did exactly what you want from a center attacking mid. Moving into our strikers, we always focus on 2 different types of strikers here. One more as a target striker or a back-to-goal guy, and then one as like a run behind. So the guy who will get on to the end of a through ball and tuck it away. Our target striker actually this year is Alexander Lacazette. Lacazette was, again, I think a guy who was underlooked this year as one of the players, the new guys who came in, but he wasn't one of the, part of the big name Man City or Liverpool teams, so he didn't get a lot of love, but he did his job well. When he was holding up this ball, he was so good on the ball, so he never gave up the ball. He had the 2nd least misplaced touches or bad touches, and he also had the 2nd best short passing percentage. So you get the ball into his feet, it's going to stay there. He's not going to get knocked off the ball. He's going to lay it off to anybody else running on, and they're going to go in on goal. He did a very good job of that this year. And then the guy who's running behind, running into those through balls, getting set up by David Silva was Sergio Aguero. Aguero was, when he was healthy, was unstoppable. He was a monster. He has the 2nd most shots, the 2nd most goals, the 3rd best goal conversion rating. So he was clinical as well. He was very good at scoring the shots that he took. He also completed the 2nd most dribble and was called offside the least. Moving on to the bench, we'll talk about our backups. Our backup goalkeeper, which would make sense, is Ederson, right? The other guy from Man City who just kind of tore it up this year. Ederson was so good with his feet. Man City brought him in to be good with his feet, and that's what he did. He had the best passing percentage, the best goals against average. He was good with his feet and making saves, and he had the 2nd most shutouts. So this guy up there with De Gea, one of the best in the league, no question about it. Our backup left back is going to be Ashley Young. He was one of like 4 people who could fit into the position. Baines could have been in there. Gibbs could have been in there, who I thought had a really good season as well. But Ashley Young takes it. He had the most tackles, most interceptions, the 4th most clearances and crosses blocked, the most dribbles, 2nd best passing percentage, 3rd most crosses completed. The guy was really good going forward and defensively as well, why he got the Team of the Year card and why he's known as one of the best. The backup right back here is going to be Cedric from Southampton, another Southampton outside back, and a player who I think was really underrated this year. He was so good for Southampton on the right back position. Least dribble by player, best tackle success rate, least amount of fouls, 3rd most crosses blocked, 2nd most crosses completed. The guy was just very good overall as an outside back this year, and he was just so solid for them. The backup center back for this team is going to be actually Chris Schindler from Huddersfield, the guy who was one of the main reasons that Huddersfield stayed up this year. He was so good for them defensively, and he was the rock in that center back position. He had the 2nd most tackles, the 5th best tackle success rate, the 4th most interceptions, 3rd most clearances, 6th most block shots, 4th most headers, 6th most offside ones. The guy was everywhere. He was just so good all around for Huddersfield, and I think that he is one of the main reasons they stayed up this year. The backup left mid for this team is going to be Sadio Mane, and he was great, but Sane was just a little bit better than him. Mane had the 3rd most shots, the 3rd most goals scored, the 3rd least dispossessed, 4th most crosses completed, 4th most assists, but in every one of those categories almost, Sane was just better than him, which is why Sane has to start and Mane is on the bench. Don't get me wrong, I'll take both of them in my starting lineup, but that's the reason he's on the bench. And now, time to get some hate. The backup right mid is Mo Salah. And yes, he had the most shots, the most goals, 3rd most dribbles, and the most assists, but he was dispossessed 3 times a game and he didn't draw any fouls, which for my right mid was important. If we played his guy as a striker, he would be in there no problem because he just tore it up this year, because that's what he played as a forward. But when we play him as a right mid and ask him to do what I need a right mid to do, he didn't make it. I'd take him in a heartbeat and put him up at striker, but that's just not how he played this year. He did well enough to make the bench, but not well enough to be my starter. Backup CDM, another one I'm probably going to get hate for, is N'Golo Kante. Again, he was good. He had the most tackles, most interceptions, 4th best tackle success rate, 2nd least amount of cards, 2nd best passing percentage. Problem was, he was dispossessed a ton this year. He lost the ball a lot in the center midfield, more than he did ever in the past, and that's one of the reasons that he is on the bench, but not in my starting 11. Our backup center attacking mid for this team is Kevin De Bruyne, and the only reason he's on the bench is because most of the time he played as an 8. He was very good going forward, but he did a lot of work in the defensive third. He had the third most goals, the third most dribbles, second most key passes, most assists, fourth best passing percentage, all sat behind David Silva. So had you been playing in that position, he'd probably be in the starting 11, but because he was doing more of the defensive work as well, he's on the bench. Our target forward backup is actually Dwight Gale from Newcastle, who a lot of people don't see as somebody in this position. But the stats say that he is the least dispossessed player and has the least bad first touches, which again is super crucial for somebody in this position. And he also has the fourth best short passing percentage, which is why he's on the bench for this team. Harry Kane is actually our backup run behind striker. Yeah, he had the most shots, the most goals, the fourth most dribbles, but he didn't do it at a very efficient rate, which is one of the reasons he's there. He was very close to being a starter, but he was offside at least one time a game, which really hurt him, as well as not having a great goal conversion rate, which is why he's made the bench but not the starting 11. The last two positions in this team go to our misfit player and our super sub. Our super sub for this team is Damari Gray from Leicester, a guy who came in and really just fit well with whatever was going on in the game and didn't really drop his level. So he was the most fouled, second least poor touches, least dispossessed, third most key passes, and the second most assists as a sub, which is great because it shows that he's able to come in and adapt to whatever's going on in the game. And in our final position, our misfit player is Eden Hazard from Chelsea. The guy who played in a bunch of positions. You can see he's got a center mid, center forward, right wing, left wing. He plays all over the place. So when you compare him in just those positions, he doesn't look that great. But when you see his overall influence on any game, you can see he's very, very good. Second most fouled player, third most shots, most goals, most dribbles, best passing percentage, most key passes, third most assists. The guy can do it all if you just look at his overall performance. But yeah, guys, that's a team. Usually I make these videos and I'm trashing EA for all the players that they miss, but this time around they seem pretty spot on. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know who you think I missed out on, who should be here, who shouldn't be here. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. If you're new here, subscribe, and I will see you next time. But until then, be good.